Hello, everyone, and welcome to a recorded educational session on the topic of exercising personal autonomy, a basic human right. My name is Linda Schellenberg, and I am from the Center for Family Support. And at CFS, we do have a goal that we want all people to be encouraged and supported to live their best life by exercising personal autonomy and self-determination. So today we want to discuss what that all means and how we can help support that. What is personal autonomy? The right to personal autonomy is a basic right of every human being, and this includes an individual's right to develop their personality, express hopes and dreams, and make choices, and not be unreasonably limited. It means choosing whether or not to act in a certain way or to have certain experiences. Autonomy is then defined by three conditions: independence, meaning it's not controlled by something beside oneself; competency, meaning that you're able to look at and understand the options and consequences; and authenticity, which is where you're able to evaluate your own values and priorities. Why is personal autonomy important? Aspirations of autonomy are inherent to all of us. People want to be independent. They want to direct what happens in their life and be invested in the outcome of the decisions that they make. Exercising personal autonomy improves life satisfaction, happiness, and protects from negative effects. How to support you to exercise personal autonomy? What I'm going to be going over today are these areas: rights education, know your rights. Being able to make decisions, you have to know what rights you have. Express hopes and dreams. Discover your hopes, dreams, preferences through person-centered planning. Being able to exercise personal autonomy involves you knowing and discovering all of the hopes and dreams that you have so that you can then make decisions on them. Presuming competence. Believe that you can make decisions and make sure that others believe in you also. Supported decision-making model. Now, in some states, supported decision-making is part of the law, and one day soon it might be part of the law here in New York. But for now, we'd like to use the supported decision-making model. And this means having others in your life that can help you to make decisions in areas that you need or want support. Make those decisions. The more you do, the better you will get at making decisions on your own. And don't be unreasonably limited. Know how to speak up and grieve those decisions made against your wishes. The first area is to know your rights. Well, what are your rights? I'm including here some information and resources on where you can find more about your rights. OPWDD has a one-pager called It's My Right. I have the right to manage my own money, make my own schedule, decide what to do with my day, have privacy in my home, take part in my community, keep myself safe, make my own friends, choose my own relationships, practice my religion or beliefs, vote for candidates, make my own goals, exercise my independence, make my own choices, the same as anyone else. It's my life. All of these areas are super important. CFS has rights education series where we dive into more of the detail in all of these areas, as making decisions means you need to have information. In addition, there's a few other resources on rights, such as Disability Rights New York has a wonderful document called Know Your Rights. And Harvard Law School developed We Have Human Rights, which is a document again that goes over human rights for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And the Self-Advocacy Association of New York State also has a rights education document. So this information you can find using the links to your right. Person-centered planning. So I mentioned before that part of exercising personal autonomy is really to know what your interests are, what your dreams, your goals are for yourself, what makes up your personality, what's important to you. So person-centered planning is a way and that's an individually focused approach to plan for a person who is in need of services and supports. It's an important vehicle for empowering individuals to have a voice in the planning process and to actively shape their future. It's a structured way of organizing planning that focuses on the unique values, strengths, preferences, capacities, needs, and desired outcomes or goals of the individual. So there are a variety of person-centered planning tools that you can use to help discover all of this wonderful information. One that I like the best is a one-page profile, which is a one-page document that highlights in positive language what is most important to you and for you and the great qualities that you possess. Again, this ties back to personal autonomy because it's important to know what makes you unique and what's important to you so that when you're making decisions, things are aligned with with your strengths, your preferences, your capacities, your needs, your outcomes, and your goals. The link here will bring you to Helen Sanderson and Associates. She's out of the UK, but with her and Michael Smalls, they have a bunch of person-centered thinking tools that can help you. They're documents that you can use to help capture and discover all wonderful things we talked about here. Okay, now here's a lot of information, and this is tips for presuming competence. And for this, I'm really speaking to those people in your life who we like to call champions, those people that are going to be supporting you. It's important that people presume competence. So the quote at the bottom says, if you want to see competence, it helps if you look for it. So we always want to ask before giving assistance. Let the person tell you what you may do to be helpful. Treat adults as adults. Use a typical tone of voice, just as if speaking with a friend or a coworker. And in general, don't assume a person can't read, but also don't assume they can. Speak to the person directly, not the support person or a companion. And don't assume a person who has limited or no speech can't understand what's being said. People usually understand more than they can express. So there are 18 tips here that can really help folks that are providing support, your supported decision making, people that are in your corner, support staff, residents, managers, supervisors, care managers. It's super important that people presume competence. They presume that you can do it, that you are able to make decisions before they decide that you're not. Some additional tips would be most people with disabilities want to help others as well as be supported and enjoy making a difference in someone's life. Avoid speaking for others. Encourage a person to speak on their own behalf. If you must restate something, be careful not to change the meaning. And because some people like to please others, it's important to be mindful of your body language, tone of voice, and other gestures that may influence a person's decision. Have your support of the person be low key, invisible to others. Don't over support and let a person make their own decisions. Don't take over and make decisions for them. It can be difficult for some of us to make quick decisions, so be patient and allow the person to take their time. Focus on what a person can do. All people want a chance to live a typical life, just like everyone else. Find ways to include a person in a conversation. Do not talk about the person to others as if they're not there. So these are helpful tips to presume confidence. Again, if you want to see competence, it helps if you look for it. So the first step in exercising personal autonomy is to make sure people are encouraging and supporting you to make decisions. What is it what does the supported decision-making model mean? So I mentioned before that in some states and in some countries, supported decision-making is an alternative to guardianship, and it's a legal process. And that might be, it's getting close to becoming one in the state of New York. But we can always utilize, learn, and benefit from the model of supported decision making. And this is because we all make decisions. And in nearly every decision, we rely on some support to make that decision. The supported decision-making approach is that people make their own choices and express personal preferences with the assistance of family members or someone they trust. So, for example, every day I make the decision on what I'm going to wear, as most of you probably do. But there are occasions where I will seek out someone I trust if I'm going to a special event or maybe a job interview, and I want to see if what I'm choosing to wear makes sense. I value another person's opinion. Ultimately, I'm going to make the decision, but I value a person's opinion in helping me to make the right decision. So people that are supporters, people that are helping you to make decisions, need to help to look at what the decision is and who are the right people and when is the right time to assist. What is the right communication method to explore decisions? What is the right information to share that will help in the decision-making process? For example, benefits, risks, consequences. And how can we assist a person to evaluate these options? I'm going to give you some tips in a little bit. And how do we listen to and understand the person's decisions? So again, going back to those person-centered tools I talked about, or even the personal outcome measures, which are those categories that drive valued outcomes. If we take a look at that, we want to make sure we're listening, we're understanding the person's decisions, and they tie back to what's most important. And how can we support the person to take action? I have a video here that I have a link to that I want to share with you.
Supported decision-making is the process by which people with intellectual and developmental disabilities make their own decisions with the support of trusted people in their lives called supporters. It also allows them to retain all of their legal and civil rights. The Supported Decision-Making New York pilot project has shown that supported decision-making works in a variety of different ways for people of all ages, races, and ethnicities, regardless of their disabilities. Here are just a few. Ganesh is a decision maker who lives with his parents in Queens. He has studied business and worked in data entry and bookkeeping. When possible, he volunteers at Queens Community House. Ganesh plays classical piano and cooks all types of Indian food. His mother, Meena, who is from Tamil Nadu in southern India, joined him to talk about supported decision making.
It will help me to get all the inputs from others that I can make on my own. Like decisions about what school is going to help me with my job search, and then I can make the decisions on my own.
When Ganesh was little, when he was 18, we just took the guardianship because we had no idea how independent and able he would be when he reached that age. And then I heard about the supported decision making, and it's a very good fit for him because he's quite capable of making a lot of decisions. But it is good for him to get input from some other people.
Ella is a 24-year-old decision maker who lives in Troy, New York. She works at the Diamond Hill Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. She also volunteers with people with disabilities using her 5 rehabilitation horses.
It's important to me to be able to identify the people that I have for supported decision making and what part they take in the process. It's also important to me that I make my own decisions and not have somebody else make them for me.
Gerald is an LGBTQ activist who lives with a roommate in a residence in Harlem run by ADAPT Community Network. He first heard about supported decision-making at an information session given by SDMNY at a Self-Advocacy Association of New York regional conference.
What attracted you to supported decision-making? What made you interested in doing it?
He said it's about him making his own decisions. That's what you said? Yeah.
And why do you think having a supported decision-making agreement is important for people who might need support communicating their decisions to others?
Because they hear you? Hear him in his words.
Harvey is 66 and works part-time as an office assistant at JobPath and is also a member of the Outside Voices theater group. In 1993, Harvey and his wife, who is now deceased, adopted a baby with Down syndrome, Samantha. Samantha is now 17 and lives with a foster parent in the Bronx, but Harvey is very much involved in her life.
So Harvey, you've been managing pretty much on your own for many years.
Yeah.
What made you decide to do supported decision making?
I figured it's very good. Like many times, people need help with making decisions. They won't, because some of them are very difficult to make and others are easier.
And are there any kind of decisions, specific decisions that you were interested in getting support with now and in the future?
Like medical decisions, for either for myself or for Samantha, because that if Samantha will undergo any kind of major medical procedure.
And how does that make you feel?
Feel good and comfortable that I'm doing something that is responsible.
All right. So that was information from the Supported Decision Making New York website. And again, the link to the video and many other stories of how people utilize supported decision making formally and/or the approach in terms of having others help them to make some decisions that they need help with. Again, it's important to remember that we live together and we make decisions every day, and oftentimes we do get help in making those decisions. Okay. There's another wonderful tool that I would encourage everyone to take some time to put together, and that's identifying the areas that you can do and make decisions alone, areas that you need support with, or that you need someone to do for you. And I've just captured here some of the headings and the different columns, but there is a document that we'll share and we can do formal exercise together in putting this support tool in place. So for example, if you are looking at home where you're living, can you make decisions on this alone? Or do you want to make decisions with support? And when you indicate that you want to make decisions on where you live with support, who would you like to help you? Who is the trusted person? I know in my life it would be my sister-in-law because she's very good at scouting out places to live. She has an interest and skill in real estate, and I always will talk to her about making decisions on where I'm going to live because she has that information. So there might be different people in your life in each of these categories And the categories that you identify you need help with, there might be different people in your life that would be able to support you. Okay, so effective decision making, again, having personal autonomy and exercising self-determination is all about making decisions, right? How do people make decisions? So we might think that this is a very easy because we do oftentimes make decisions every day on what you choose to wear, what you choose to eat, who you're friends with, what activities you're going to do. So we are making decisions every day, and the more decisions you make, the better you get at doing it. However, there is some times in life when you have to make big decisions, or even decisions that might not be so big, but going through a process would be helpful. So the University of Massachusetts came up with this 7 steps to effective decision making. The first is to identify the decision, then gather the information, identify alternatives, weigh the evidence, choose among those alternatives, take action, and review your decisions. Here's more detail on each of those steps, and I'll highlight some of them. So identifying the decision. So you realize that you need to make a decision, and that is the most important step. You want to try to clearly define the nature of the decision that you must make. Again, we've talked about person-centered planning, knowing what's most important to you, knowing your preferences, your goals. So making decisions that are in line with those things is important. The second step is to gather that relevant information. So what information is needed and where can you get that information? So sometimes it's self-reflection. So you could be working with somebody to work through a process of self-assessment. So for example, if you're in a relationship and you're not happy, maybe you're making a decision to leave the relationship or stay in the relationship or make a change. So that will involve some self-assessment. Other decisions are looking maybe externally and finding information externally. So maybe looking online, looking in books, talking to other people, and looking for from other different sources. So you're going to take some time to gather information that's related to the decision that you're making. Step 3 is to identify the alternatives. So as you collect information, you're probably identifying several different paths of action. So those are called alternatives. You can use your imagination and additional information to come up with new alternatives. In this step, you're going to list all possible and desirable alternatives. Step 4, weigh the evidence. You're going to draw on your information and your emotions to imagine what it would be like if you carried out each one of the alternatives to the end, to evaluate whether the need identified in step 1 would be met or resolved through each of the alternatives. So as you go through this difficult process, you'll begin to favor certain decisions, certain choices that seem to have a higher potential to reach your goal. Finally, place the alternative into priority order based upon your own value system. So if you think about each alternative and weighing the pros and cons and writing that down or using pictures, drawing it, however you like to capture that information, it's good to have all of that information down. Step 5 is to choose among those alternatives or a combination. And step 6 is to take action. So you're now ready to take some positive action and implement the alternative that you chose. Now, step 7 is reviewing your decision and its consequence. So what is the result of your decision, and evaluate, has it actually resolved the need you identified in step 1? If the decision has not been met, you may need to repeat certain steps to make a new decision. For example, you might want to gather more information or explore additional alternatives. So again, this might seem self-explanatory because we make decisions every day, but it's super important when making more complicated, difficult decisions to consider using a process like this, the the 7 steps of effective decision making. Okay, now that you've gone through that process, what decisions do you want to make on your own? What decisions do you want help with? Who can provide this help? People you trust, and who can help you sort through these decisions? The self-advocacy website has a decision-making tool, and I've included the link here. Now, what happens if people are making decisions for you that are not in your best interest? So part of exercising personal autonomy and self-determination is to not be unreasonably limited. There's ways to grieve and resolve these concerns. And at times, you may have concerns regarding decisions being made. These concerns are often best addressed first through open communication with your planning team. And here at CFS, I've tried to list some of the people that you can speak to help resolve concerns that you might have about decisions being made. Of course, what I didn't include on here, but's most important, is those people that you trust in your life. So your first people that you might speak to would be friends, family, and your direct support professionals that are working with you. In addition to that, we have a care manager. This is a person who's an independent, non-biased, and formal advocate for you. If you're in self-direction, you would have a support broker. They can also act as an independent, non-biased advocate. At CFS, we have managers, frontline managers, and frontline supervisors who provide oversight to the services that you receive, and they can bring forth any complaints or grievances to the assistant director or program director. At your life plan meeting, so all individuals who receive services here in New York are required to have at minimum twice a year life plan review. This is an opportunity for you to talk about issues and concerns. You can go over your goals. At this meeting, it's an ideal time to raise those issues with your team present and ensure that they're responsive to you. At CFS, we have behavior intervention specialists for individuals who live in our certified residential settings. They can be a person you can voice your concerns to as it relates to your behavior support plan or other areas. And we also have, which is really cool, innovative planning specialists. For individuals, that's somebody that you can speak to. They are there to help you to ensure that your plans are implemented in a way that honors your rights. We have a human rights committee. By regulation, this is a place to review any restrictive or intrusive interventions and or limitations on a person's rights. In addition, at CFS, HRC often hears complaints or concerns and provides recommendations as it relates to honoring the person's rights. We have our assistant director, program director that can be contacted as well, and the program leadership will address any issues or concerns presented by you or your team. If issues cannot be resolved, we have a formal process, a formal due process that we will follow that includes the directors of services and our quality assurance and compliance department. So there would be no reason for you to have unreasonable limitations on your rights. Therefore, you should be able to go forth and exercise personal autonomy and self-determination. Thank you very much.